How's everybody doing this afternoon? We can get started. It's almost 6 o'clock, so I plan to have this from about 6 to 7 o'clock probably. Y'all feel free to ask any questions you want to. Got one question here on my YouTube. What are your favorite kinds of fish to catch? My favorite kind of fish to catch is largemouth and smallmouth bass. So I am mainly a bass fisherman. Yes, Mr. Rick Reed, I do know Dale Hollow. I fished it a couple of times and didn't really do very good up there. It's definitely it's a different type of lake to fish if you've never fished it before. It's a lot bigger than I'm used to, and it's really deep and stuff. I didn't have much practice when I went out there. I only had about a day or a day and a half of practice, so it was very, very tough for me to fish. The main thing I was going to talk about today in today's live stream was frog fishing. I don't know if y'all if you watched my latest YouTube video. It was mainly trying to frog fish and not catching anything frog fishing. I had a really tough day this past weekend. I just couldn't catch anything on a frog. Went out there for 4, 5, 6 hours, and it just wasn't very good. Didn't really do very good. Got anything for Lake Hartwell? I've never been to Lake Hartwell before. I've heard good things about it. I know they have a lot of Bass Elite tournaments and Bass Opens there, and they catch some big fish, but I know big swim baits and stuff play well on that lake. I got the Bass Nation High School Championship. Yeah, that'll be a good one. So good luck to that. Good luck on that. Hope you do well. I guess we can dive into this about frog fishing. So, if anybody's watching, what's up? What's up? What's up? Kotecha Fishing. Caught any lately? No, not really. It's been tough for me. I've not been catching a ton here lately.
Quit pressing, try to join live. That's how you get on the video. Yeah, it keeps popping up. No, that's what Final Fantasy is.
Tell us about frog fishing. So that's what I was going to dive into. I was thinking, thought a few more people would get in here, but this is the main frog I was using this weekend. This was the main frog I was using this weekend, and this is just a spro popping frog, if y'all can see that there. And this is just in like a shad pattern here. It's just, you can see just white on the bottom, and then you got the little red and pink, I guess, type face on it. But let's see here, I've got this one. So this one is like a full one. This one's brand new. It's got the full legs, and then this one's the one I was been throwing. You can tell I've cut the legs down, cut them down about an inch or so. That's a full leg there versus this one. And the reason is that is because when you have this full body here, it's more of a chance for them to miss it. They can come up, you know, when a frog's sitting here and these legs are laying back on this, it's more of something for them to miss than it is just something like this, where you cut the legs down just a little. It's still got some action, but they have less of the body of the frog to miss. So that's one of the biggest modifications I do to a frog. the absolute best time of the year to go fishing. So the best time of the year for me seems like to go fishing is definitely the springtime or late winter. You know, it's still kind of cold outside, but the fish are eating the best. It seems like, you know, the pre-spawn to all the way up to your spawn and post-spawn. When post-spawn starts going, it starts getting a little bit tougher. You know, the fish start going offshore, they get hot, it starts getting hot outside, it's a little bit harder to catch the fish. But as far as, you know, best time when you're really just trying to target your biggest fish and also your most fish is definitely, you know, right during pre-spawn. You know, the fish are eating the most, they're getting big and fat to go lay their eggs up shallow and stuff. Fish are also pushing up shallow, so, you know, you don't have to be out in the super deep water. You can, you know, be in a little bit shallower water and, you know, throw stuff like frogs and things when that water gets right at that, you know, 58, 59 to 60 degree. That's really, you know, 55 degrees is like a magical water temperature for bass. You know, they really start pushing up, you know, shallow. Seems like they really start eating and getting fat and stuff for the year. That's definitely probably the best time of the year that I've found. But, you know, winter time, people love fishing in the winter. Winter time is just a little bit harder because it is so cold. Sometimes it gets so cold in certain areas that it's really hard to fish. The fish don't move much. Do I ever do much deep sea fishing? Not much. I've been once, but that was a long time ago. But I'll give y'all some more tips on what are the water temps now. The water temps now, right now it's you know, it's later summer, so the water temperatures are, you know, 83, 84. It's really hot on the fish since we've been having those 90 to 100 degree days. It really heats up the water, really kind of hurts the fish. But you can still catch them. You know, they're just kind of lethargic like they are during the winter, but they're kind of the same way during the summer also. They just get to where they won't move much. They, you know, want to eat something slower like big worms, big jigs, stuff like that. You want to find them offshore. They're going to be, you know, 15, 20 foot of water. A lot of times they'll be on ledges where the water's moving, current breaks, things like that. Welcome, Maddie Bass Fishing. Welcome to the live stream. What boat do I run? I have a Nitro Z20. It's a 2020 model. And it's just got a 250 on the back, 250 Mercury Pro XS. It's been excellent for us. I really like nitros. I've always liked nitros ever since, you know, I was fishing out of an aluminum boat. We would go to the dealership and see nitros, and they were always, you know, they're, you know, every boat brand is really good in their own ways, but nitros, you know, one of the most affordable if you're really wanting to get into more serious tournament bass fishing. So that's something to take into account. You know, you don't have to spend $100,000 like some guys do nowadays to get a good, you know, tournament boat. You can buy the Z18 and stuff that's 18 and a half foot, you know, with a 175 or 150 on it. It'll run, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour. And you also have the fish ability of, you know, that fiberglass you can run in rougher water and things like that. Y'all keep coming on with the questions. Those are always awesome. Ask any questions y'all want to about fishing. I was going to talk about frog fishing this evening, but if y'all keep asking questions, we can talk about something else. I'm going to try to start doing this, you know, about an hour, you know, once or twice a week. But with this frog fishing here, if you had one bait to throw, if I had one bait to throw year round, I would definitely probably pick up a jig, you know, just a flipping jig. Seems like really on any lake you can pick up a flipping jig year round and catch fish on it, you know, anywhere from, you know, dead of summer, like I was talking about earlier, where the fish aren't moving much, you can pick up a jig, and you can also, you know, go in the winter when the fish aren't moving much and they'll still eat it. It seems like all year a jig is good. I'll throw a half ounce or a 3/8 ounce jig. I'll throw a 3/8 when it gets colder and hotter, you know, just a little bit less movement in the water. And then, you know, when the fish are really feeding and really, you know, eating a lot of things, you know, when they're eating anything that you throw at them, it seems like in the springtime sometimes, then you'll switch up to like a half ounce, or if you're fishing docks and things like that, I'd throw a half ounce, you know, just a flipping jig, green pumpkin or green pumpkin brown or something like that with a crawl bait on the back. My favorite one is a Net Baits Pack-A-Chunk. That's a new one that I found that I really like, and it seems to work great. I throw that on a, you know, 7.4 heavy or 7.6 medium heavy. I switch my rods up a lot depending on where I'm fishing, but I'll just flip rocks, flip laydowns, flip trees, things like that. You know, and even on grass lakes, I'll flip, you know, outer edges of grass where the grass meets rock, and grass around docks and things like that. I'll also throw like a half ounce, and you know, you can throw a half ounce and you reel it through the grass and things like that, and it really works good. In a jig, you know, with a jig, it's kind of like a frog, you know. A frog's not a very huge bait. A jig's not either. I don't actually have one in here with me, but a jig's not a huge bait. It's about the same size as a frog, but, you know, it seems to get a bigger bite. You know, when you're needing, you know, that 4 or 5 pounder, it seems like, you know, the pros, everybody, even me, I've always picked up a jig, and, you know, you may not get as many bites the rest of the day, but you'll get that 1, 4, or 5 pound to bite. And when you hook that fish, a lot of times you can land it, because that's the big thing with a frog. Like this weekend, I didn't get any bites, but we had a tournament the previous weekend, and I was fishing with a frog. I got enough bites to win the tournament, but I didn't catch them. I missed most of every single fish, and I don't know if it was something wrong with my frog or it just didn't hook them. But with a jig, if you get a bite, normally you can hook it and reel it in, and, you know, you're fishing 18, 20 pound line with a heavy rod. You catch them, reel them to the boat, and it's pretty easy to land the fish, you know. But that's what I was talking about a couple of weekends ago. I was fishing with this same frog. This is just a Spro popping frog here. I was fishing with this one, and I was also changing it up to, if I have one in here, I've got one like this. This is just like a, you know, the pointy nose frog like that, and I was fishing with it also. But I kept throwing this, kept getting bites, and I could not for the life of me catch them. And I'm not sure why I wasn't catching them, because, you know, on this, a lot of the modifications I'll do is I'll take this bait and I will, you know, if I can get it to go, I'll take this bait here, I'll flip it around like that where the hooks are pointed out, and I'll bend these hooks, you know, this way and that way. I'll bend them out like this. If y'all can see that, I'm trying to point to 2 cameras. I'll bend them, and then I'll also take these barbs right here, and I'll bend these up just a hair. I'll take the, you know, the pointed part from, you know, right here on to the hook point. I'll take that and I'll bend it straight up in the air just a little bit. So that way, when you're fishing with your frog here, you know, if you take your 2 fingers and run it across the frog, you're gonna catch those hook points like that. You know, on these brand new frogs like this, you can see this and you can run your fingers, you know, and you'll never get hooked. But when you get the modification like that, you run it and it points and it pokes right in your finger like that. So that's the way that I've always done it. Haven't had that bad of a weekend normally when I'm fishing with these, but for some reason I just couldn't hook them. I don't know if anybody has any more tips that they'd like to use or anything, but definitely leave them in the comments so I can check it out. But that was one of the main things with the frog. I was also fishing, I got one right here, I was fishing with just like a buzz toad type thing, like this right here. Y'all can see that. I was fishing with this. It just goes across the top of the water. Its legs just, you know, the legs just kick about like that, and it just reels. It's almost like a buzz bait, but without all the noise and the action. So I just use that, goes across the top of the water, and finally I started throwing that a little too late in the day, and they started eating it, and I actually started catching them. But even with that, it seemed like they were eating the back of it. So it was just one of those things that I just think the fish were short striking it and stuff. I'm not really exactly sure what was happening with it, but I'm definitely gonna try something new next time I go out there. But with the line that I use on the frog, most of the time, if I'm fishing a frog, I'll fish it on a 7.4 heavy action rod, a 7.4 Duckett heavy action Pro Series rod with just a Shimano SLX, and I'll throw 40 or 50 pound braid on the 7.4. Normally I'm running 50 just because it's, you know, you can get it out of the grass, 50 casts really well and things like that. You don't have to, you know, a lot of times I'm bombing this frog way out there, and I don't want it, you know, to knot up or anything with that 65. I know some guys throw that 65, it seems like it knots up a lot more and it doesn't nearly cast as far. So I use 50 pound braid, Power Pro braid on this, just green, and sometimes I'll go to 40 if I'm fishing a little bit of open water. A lot of times if I'm fishing open water, I'll throw the popping frog on 40, and then if I'm going, you know, in mats or lily pads or things, then I'll take the pointy frog and I'll throw it on 50. And then sometimes, every now and then, you know, you're throwing something like this, but you're around some really, really thick stuff. Sometimes the milfoil, eelgrass, you know, lily pads and things, pad stems, they get really, really thick, and you can't hardly, you know, do anything about it. So I'll step up to a 7.4 or a 7.6 heavy action Pro Series with a Shimano SLX, and I'll go to 65 pound braid. That 65 pound braid, it just helps, you know, because if you're catching, you know, 5 pound fish, and then you got, you know, 30 pounds of grass and stuff you're pulling in with it, and you're just trying to keep the fish on, you can set the hook a lot harder, you can set it a lot easier. You don't have to worry about breaking off, because if you're fishing 40 around pad stems and stuff, it can still break you off. I know it seems crazy on a 5 pound fish, and most of the time, you know, 2 and 3 pound fish, but it can happen. 65 pound braid just really lets you cut through that grass and stuff, and, you know, winch that fish out of that heavy cover with a 7.6 heavy. That's the one time that I'll go up in a power, you know, and up in a rod length, is when I'm fishing around really, really heavy cover. Those are the couple of things that I do there. Drop my frog there. But these are the two main types of frogs that I use. It's just a Spro popping frog right here, if you can see that, and then just a regular Spro bonsai, you know, pad crasher type frog. This one's actually still got some grass on it, but I'll just use that also. You know, this is more of your heavy cover type frog. You know, when you're fishing really thick cover and stuff, this is your heavy type cover frog. And then when you're in a little bit more of open water, and even around laydowns and stuff, you want that popping frog, because it sounds just like a brim. You know, I've got popping frogs that are just straight white. You know, these work great on the shad spawn around docks and things like that during this post spawn. You can throw that, skip it under docks and stuff, and it really works great. I've had some really, really cool eats this year when I got out there on the shad spawn, skipping those under docks and things. And it was really fun, something that I haven't done a lot. But then I also have, you know, I've got black ones. When the sun's really high up and stuff, you know, you want to throw this black one here. The black is just there, the sun's beating down on it, it casts a really big shadow, and the fish can see that and they just can't resist it. It's, you know, something sitting on top of the water making noise, popping across the surface. I've got some different types of frogs in here, you know, the popping perch, I don't use that too much. I've got some smaller ones, I don't use these much easier, but this is like a one size smaller. You can tell the difference, you know, that's a full size, this is a full size Spro, and then this is one size smaller. And I actually accidentally got some of these, but this is even a size smaller, so you can see these 3 sizes here. And then I know Spro makes some really big ones, so you can see all 3 of those. Josh from Rut Fly, welcome. If you have any questions or comments, or want to talk anything about fishing, just leave it in the comments. We were just talking about some frog fishing. My latest YouTube video I was frog fishing, didn't get any bites, and 2 weekends ago I had enough to win on a frog, but I missed them and they came off, and it was just really, really a struggle. So if y'all have any frog fishing techniques or tips, leave them in the comments. I'll check those out, or want to know anything about the way I do my frog fishing. But I've got, you know, I know a lot of people like these. This is a scum frog here. This is just a really cool one just because of the body design. You can see how it's got that little bit of, you know, it's like caved in, and the fish doesn't seem like the fish has to eat it much. Eat it, you know, they don't have to clamp down. That's the only one negative I have with the Spros, is they're excellent, but it takes a whole lot of pressure for that to compress, and even when you're compressed, the hooks aren't just, you know, way up in the air. I don't know if y'all can see that on there. Welcome, Garrett Johnson. But you can see the Spro frog. It takes a lot to, you know, takes a whole lot to push this frog down, and you still don't have much room for this frog for the fish to get hooked with that frog. But you know, one of these new ones that I've been trying to play around with, which I'm going to get some more coming up, is this is just a Booyah Baits Pad Crasher, and it's really squishy, so it's really easy for the, you know, the fish to decompress this bait. And when it is decompressed, you have tons of area. You know, my whole finger can fit underneath those hooks, so it really works excellent. It seems like that little bit of softer plastic, they don't work as great in the super thick stuff and the pads and the pad stems and things like that, but they work a lot better on your hookup ratio. These are all top float frogs. Yes, these are all, every single one of these. I've got a whole box of them here. These are just, you know, top water frogs and things like that is what we're talking about mainly. You know, pad crashers, things like that. That, you know, most people fish grass with them, but I like to throw them. One of the biggest things that I don't think a lot of people do is I throw these around things like, you know, laydowns and stuff. Even if I don't have grass on the lake, I'll still skip these under bushes, skip them around laydowns, and I really do well with them, you know, in the springtime and even in the summer, you know, when the fish are shallow. This is one of my favorite colors here. It's just like black and yellow and orange on the bottom. It's really random, but it's an awesome color. Works great, and you can see that red mouth. That's one awesome thing. You really see the red mouth, so that helps, you know, when you're visually looking at it. You can see the frog and you can see when it gets eaten things. But those are pretty much, I've got actually one left of these. This is a nice color. It's just called Killer Gill, and it's just like a more tinted, it's a gray on the bottom. Bend the hooks up on, yeah, I do. Let's see here, I'll pick this one. Well, what did I do with it? This is the one of the ones that, trying to find it, that I've been fishing with here, and I've actually bent the hooks up just a little bit. I don't know if y'all can see that, but they're off the hook there, and you know, they're catching my finger, whereas a brand new frog, you know, when you run your hand up, it doesn't get caught. But it just, for some reason, I think my frog was messed up. I think the inside little connector that holds the eyelet and the hooks were messed up because the frog was really bent. But the way I store my frogs is, I've got my frog box here. It's a little bit emptier. I broke some off, but I just put my frogs in a box like this. You can actually turn this light off, if y'all can see that there. I store my frogs a lot of times. You know, I've got white over here, I've got black on the bottom. It's a little bit messed up because I've been using it so much, but this is one of the Plano flat boxes. I've got it labeled here that says frogs, and this is one of the Plano flat boxes. It works excellent. You know, you can fit 2 frogs in each thing, so a lot of times I'll stack these frogs on top of each other, and if you really wanted to, you could fit tons and tons of frogs in here, simply because you can stack them on top of each other. And then, you know, I always let them dry out before I put them back in the box. But if y'all can see that right there, you know, you can stack 2 on top of each other, so you can get 2, 2, 2. Yeah, Plano, I know they have the really cool, you know, the Plano, like the yellow one. I don't know, the Plano Edge, I know they're really fancy. But I do really just like these flat boxes. They're neat. They're really easy to store. I use a lot of these flat boxes, and then I'll use, you know, I've got these. This is my terminal tackle box, and it's just because it's excellent because I can split a lot of the stuff up into really tiny spaces. I don't know if y'all can see that, but you can really, you know, split up all your stuff there. All the storage on the boat. Yeah, mostly I don't carry a ton of stuff with me. You know, I've got probably 15 of these boxes like this, and then, you know, that's what 15, you know, of the organized box like this all together. You know, I've got those top boxes, and then I keep those in the front, and I have frogs and stuff. I'm not much on, you know, putting weight in the back. I've got a couple of the ones like this that are the thick ones. It's like two of these together, and that's what I store like big swim baits and stuff in. But those are awesome. And then like this, the reason I like this is my terminal box. Turn this off. The reason I like this is my terminal box is because I got big sections down here that I can just store like, you know, packages of hooks in. So like here, got all these. These are just hooks that I use every now and then or every so often. So I've got these, and I can carry all these packs of, you know, hooks and stuff in this box because it's got a big open container, you know, and I can take stuff out on the bottom. And then it's also got the little trays on the top that I can split between, you know, tons of different weight sizes and things. What about rods? How many setups do you keep ready to use? You know, I've got 15, 16, 17 rods in the boat or so. I've got like 5 spinning rods. Welcome, Jay Coley. I've got like 5 spinning rods. I've got like 5 spinning rods and about, you know, 12 or so bait casters. And on a, you know, on a tournament day or a given day, it depends on, I like to get it down, you know, 5 or 6 rods on the front boat deck, 5 or 6 rods ready to go. A lot of times I'll have them all rigged up just in case something crazy, you know, if I see certain things. But I do keep, you know, random ones in the rod box and things. But I also keep, you know, 4, 5, 6 rods, you know, on the boat deck most of all the time. Sometimes I'd love to have just one rod all the time. I'd love to have just one rod all the time on the front boat deck because that means I'm dialed in. If you see those guys on the lake that just have, you know, one rod, that's normally the scariest thing because they've, you know, they're really locked down and dialed in on what the fish are doing. Had lots of success on river run lakes over there. Yeah, you know, river run lakes, you know, a lot of lakes that I've been fishing here recently, they're, you know, kind of like a river system. They're on big rivers, Tennessee rivers and stuff like that. But they've been different because, you know, a lot of, like this one certain one that I've been fishing, they haven't had much current lately, so it's been a lot different. They haven't been pulling water, they haven't been doing stuff like that. The grass has grown up. It just seems like it was kind of dead and stagnant a lot of places. But you can find those places, you know, where there's current breaks, grass lines and things like that. And I like to look for, if you can find like rock next to grass and things, it seems like it always works really, really well because you have those 2 different types of structure that the fish can stay around. It's going to bring bait in, it's going to bring brim, it's going to bring things like that. And you can always seem to find fish there. And I also like to look, you know, for grass next to a, you know, river or a river system or the deep water if your grass is in 3 foot, if, you know, 100 yards away or 50 yards away, if it's 12, 13, 14 feet and there's a river channel or something, then a lot of times those fish will sit there in the grass because they can get on the per se highway, you know, to be able to move back and forth on the river channel and things like that. But with frog fishing, I got my 3 setups. This is also another frog that I was fishing with. You can see this. This is just one of my setups. This is actually a 7.3 medium heavy, and I use a 7.3 medium heavy for fishing frogs like this. You know, when I'm fishing those buzz type frogs, I go to a 7.3 medium heavy, and it seems to work really well. I've really started to enjoy these a lot more. I used to not fish them very much, but I've recently just started fishing them a whole lot, and they've really done great. And one reason I really love them is because when you're trying to skip it, it skips really easy and it skips really far. So, you know, it seems like they always do good. If I'm skipping underneath boat docks, you know, skipping trees, skipping bushes, things like that, I can get that bait really back far where people aren't getting their baits, and it seems like it does the best. What's the best time of day to hook big bass? The best time of day, in my opinion, you know, of course, daylight when, you know, right now the sun's rising, you know, anywhere from 5:30 to 6 o'clock. So, you really want to be out there at daylight. It seems like it's always the best. The fish are feeding anywhere, from daylight, it seems like, till 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is the shut off. From 9 to about 11 or 12 o'clock, it seems like it's always the worst time of the day. And then from, 11 or 12 to 3 or 4, you have another feeding window that's excellent. And, anywhere from, say, probably when, dusk starts happening, that 6, 7, 8 o'clock, right when the sun starts going down. It's always an excellent time. But if I had to pick one time, I'd definitely say early in the morning, just because it's easy to fish early in the morning. There's not much waves, and the fish are sitting up shallow a lot of times because it's been cool all night with the summer without the sun, and then later in the day, fish will go out deep when it starts getting sunny. Those are all excellent questions. Keep them coming. Between a scum frog, popper, or soft plastic frog, which is your favorite? I would probably say I haven't thrown a popper a ton. I'm slowly getting into the popper and soft plastic frog game, but I definitely have to pick, one of the popping frogs, like the scum frog or something. I would definitely pick that as my number one favorite. It just seems the best. It seems like, your hookup ratio isn't always the best, but neither is it with a popper. It seems like they miss in the soft plastic frog, but these frogs are just, they're versatile. You can fish it around wood, you can fish it around grass, rocks, anything. Seems like these always work excellent. A popper, you can't really fish it around grass. You can fish it around light laydowns. You can't skip it really well. The soft plastic frog is one of my new favorites. It might be up in one of them things that I have it rigged on year round. It's just really been, catching fish well for me lately. But I like the old-fashioned, popping frog or scum frog. It's really been excellent. And it seems like they always get a big bite. So that's one of the big things, fish blow up on it, and you can drag them out of cover and things like that. With a popper, I normally throw braid, but you can't just jack them and, reel them into the boat because you do have treble hooks. What are the top 5 lakes you want to fish and why? Oh Lord, I would have to definitely go to Texas. I'd have to go to Florida, but I'm not sure exactly what lakes I would pick. I definitely want to go to Texas and Florida. Those are just excellent fisheries. Seems like they always are catching the biggest fish, the 10-pounders and stuff, out of those lakes. So I definitely have to pick one of those 2 states to go to fish. I'd like to go to both of them here eventually. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to. But I'll show y'all. Let's see here. This is actually the frog I was using. I'll show some top secret stuff here to my 5 or 6 viewers that are watching. But this is something that I do that not many people do. And this right here is just a pointed nose pro frog. This is in an all white. So this is the all white version. But if you can see, I have taken a Sharpie and I've drawn on that. So I really like these white frogs because I can do that exact thing. You can take any color Sharpies you want. I've got, lots of different colors type Sharpies, but I just take this black and I break it up because when that white, they've got all one color, that all white, they're seeing that. But when you take the Sharpie, you can draw on it on the sides. It doesn't have to be perfect. I made a little black mark right there, drawn on this side, and I've just made some squiggly lines and marks if you can see that. And it just breaks up the frog, where you can almost customize it to the exact specifications that you want if you have certain things that you like to do to a frog, if you have certain colors that you want to throw. But that is definitely one of those biggest things I can recommend to everybody, to take a pack of Sharpies. I know a lot of people who don't do this. I've done this for, a bit, but get a pack of Sharpies from, get a pack of Sharpies just from Walmart and take it. And when you have a white frog, if it doesn't seem like they're eating it great, just take it and, mess up the bottom and draw on it. You can draw whatever you want to. Just break it up. It breaks that color up, so it's not just one blob, because, a shad, when it's swimming through the water, or a bait fish, or a gizzard shad, or anything like that, or a minnow, it's not, you know, one color. It's not just a straight white like that. You know, it's got some white, it's got some marks on it, it's got some gray, it's got, you know, it might be missing a scale in some places. It might have a mess up on its fin or something like that. So that's the main reason you need to break up the white color. You know, you don't always have to break up the white color. And, you know, a lot of people, like I said again, a lot of people don't do this, but when you're fishing with certain frogs, like see like this one, it's already broken up fairly decent. It's got the, you know, the tinted mouth and stuff, the red to the black, and then, you know, the sides on it a little bit. These frogs, they don't sit, you know, you can't really see the top, but it's got the sides on it, like y'all can see there, it's painted. So you do have, it breaks up the color a little bit. But with these all white frogs during the shad spawn, you don't want to, you know, mess up the bottom. You want that all white color. You want to cut the legs down really short, and it just looks like a shad flickering on the water. But, you know, when you're targeting shad outside the shad spawn, you know, where they're not eating it as good, you really want to scuff up that bottom, draw on the sides and stuff, and it works great. What is the best color baits to use right now? Well, color of the bait, you know, color of bait depending is not, you know, depending on time of the year more so than it is the water clarity conditions you're fishing in. But a good color during the summer is always June bug. It's like a black and blue, purple type color. It's always an excellent color to use. But, you know, you just have to experiment. You know, like I was catching them in my earlier YouTube videos. You can go check that out on my YouTube channel at just Garrett Albert. But, you know, I was throwing a sexy shad 8XD offshore on some fish, and I was just catching the heck out of them. I tried picking up, you know, a chartreuse and blue Rapala crankbait, and they wouldn't eat it. So it was a lot of color and action of that bait versus, you know, the color difference between the Rapala, the Rapala, it was, you know, chartreuse and blue versus, you know, the Strat King, which was white and shad color. So it really worked great on the crankbaits. But, you know, June bug on your big worms and your, you know, wobble heads and things like that always work excellent. But you have to, you know, if the watercolor is, you know, if the watercolor is a lot more dirty and dirtier and stuff, you can, you know, throw those, you know, brighter colors like the chartreuse and blues like that, you know, the neons and stuff like that. But, you know, when you have that cleaner water, you really want to go to a more natural presentation because the fish can get a better look at it. They're seeing it from far away. They know, you know, what's a bait and what's not. But that's a big thing, you know, in the summer fishing. Red bugs. Yeah, red bug is an awesome one. I don't throw those. It seems like they don't work as good. But I fished a tournament, you know, a month ago or so, and this dude was throwing a red bug colored shaky head worm, and it was working great. It was, you know, he was catching the heck out of fish, so I changed to a red bug, and it just seems like that what they wanted. But you really just have to experiment. Red bug's a great one, along with June bug. They're really off the wall colors. They're not natural looking colors, but they do work great. Like Jay Coley was saying, you know, red bug in his part of the country may be catching them, but, you know, when I come to my part, it may not be working. June bug may be working, or, you know, a more natural green pumpkin or something. But red bug is definitely one you always need in your boat. Red bug in the summer, June bug, and then, you know, a green pumpkin or a Houdini type zoom color. I use zoom worms, and they work really great. But you really want to have, you know, you want to have a versatile selection of colors when you're fishing, you know, a lake at least. You know, pond fishing, you can, you know, take a June bug, or a red bug, and switch between a red bug and June bug, or take, you know, like a natural color. A lot of it depends on the situation and, you know, what the fish are wanting. And sometimes you can throw any color in there and it's not going to matter. I know a lot of people, they'll throw a green pumpkin and get a lot of bites, and then, you know, a lot of bites on green pumpkin, but their fish are all their fish will be small. You know, they'll switch to a red bug and they won't get as many bites, but they'll get a lot bigger bite. So that can be a big, you know, determining factor if you're fishing tournaments or if you're just fishing for fun and things like that. have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Welcome, Gavin Cloutier. That's the man right there. He fishes the same tournament series as I do. He actually won Dale Hollow this year. In your experience, what are things a beginner should avoid? Example is gear and baits. You know, one thing I did as a beginner fisherman when I started is I bought a lot of cheap stuff and it didn't really last and it was really aggravating. You know, you don't want to buy a lot of the cheap stuff. If you're going to save up, buy one combo instead of buying 5 cheap combos. Save up your money and buy 1 or 2 really good combos that are really nice, Shimano's or something or whatever, you know, expensive brand you can afford at your price point, but definitely get something, you know, that's not just, you know, cheapest thing on the market, the $20 reels or something. If that's all you can afford, you go for it and it'll work. But you know, you really want to invest into some nicer stuff so you can, you know, have that. And if you invest in the nicer stuff, it'll last longer, it'll work better, and it'll really make you enjoy fishing a lot more. What is your take on forward-facing sonar? I do like forward-facing sonar. It's an excellent tool. You know, I'm a tournament fisherman, so it's one of those things that you kind of have to have nowadays if you want to compete on certain lakes. But it's an excellent tool. You know, in the 2 years I've had it, I've gotten a lot better. For the first year I had it, I never really knew what I was doing. But, you know, the last year I've really gotten to dial it in. I've really, you know, took the time to learn and use it, but it's awesome. You know, I don't always use it if I'm out there, you know, just fun fishing. A lot of times I'll turn it off and just go shallow, but it does work excellent. You can see in some of my previous YouTube videos that I use it, you know, not necessarily to cast on the fish's head, but I'll use it to find, you know, grass lines and rocks and stuff like that to cast at. But yeah, forward-facing sonar, you know, it's excellent. It's really a fun tool. I know a lot of guys hate it, a lot of guys love it, and then there's some people like me. It doesn't really matter to me. You know, I could go without it or with it, but I definitely want to have it in these bigger tournaments if I'm fishing, you know, for money and things like that, and fishing to move up. I would definitely want to have it just because there's been sometimes this year, you know, at a certain lake at stop three of the Major League Fishing tournaments this year, I finished 33rd out of like 100, and it really bumped me up in points this year and gave me a shot to qualify for the regionals. But I was just, you know, going down the bank, flipping and stuff, and throwing into, you know, bushes and trees and things like that, and laydowns and rocks. And I turn around and I see 3 fish out off the bank just chasing bait around. Well, I pick up a jerk bait, I throw it out there, I give it about 3 twitches, and this fish comes from about 15 foot away and just smashes this jerk bait, and I hook it, and it was one of my biggest fish of the tournament. It was also the first fish of my tournament, and it really just set the tempo for the day. It helped me out a ton, and it really got me going. And, you know, this fish, I didn't do that. I didn't catch another fish on a jerk bait all day, but I was great. It was great that I had that forward-facing sonar in there to pan over and just happened to see those fish, picked up the right bait, threw it over there, and they crushed it. And that was really, really awesome, you know, in a tournament where you're fishing, you know, for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 or even more, you know, $10,000, $12,000, and, you know, a shot at qualifying for the next high up tournaments. But